My name is Anthony Kahora Mwangi, aka Mr. T, aka the Apostle, aka the 13 Disciple. My profession, my background academically, I did a degree in geology, master's in environmental planning and management. But I'm an actor, I'm an author, the founder of Truth Mentorship Society, and also a media personality that will really define who I am, and a youth pastor by calling. And this is my wife.
Yes, my name is Claudia Wahito Kahura. I've been married to Anthony for 5 months now. I'm in the insurance industry, and of course I help a lot in the ministry, the Truth Mentorship Society. Yes.
Mrs. T.
Yes. Also known as Mrs. T. Yes. We met in 2016, January 6th, through a friend, a close friend of mine who introduced me to him. They were living in the same apartments, so he was helping her pack, and while they got to know each other, my friend was like, "There's this lady that you must meet." Yeah, so I got to meet him.
Yeah, the lady was a neighbor, so I was just helping her to pack, and at that time I'd given up on love. And 2 major heartbreaks in my life, and I was like, no, this thing I can't do it. That year, remember, I told the Lord, me with relationships, I'm done. And then she comes and tells me, so you're single? And I'm like, yes. You're a youth pastor? Yes. This friend of mine who owns a God-fearing man who's totally sold out to Jesus. And I say, that's the definition of a pastor, and that's who I am. So, so when I met her, after that day, the lady made sure that we met. So I remember we were making dinner in her house, not in her house, in the friend's house. Yeah. And I just wanted to surprise her. And I realized we're not sharing the same faith. So for me, it was a billas, this is not my wife. Nothing can go, because I had paid the price through heartbreaks. And I was like, God, I'll not compromise on your standards. And I knew, apana, she's not the one. Then I invited her for the service that was in Kenya Cinema, where we have our fellowship. And she came, fell in love with the message, fell in love with the God of the preacher, then fell in love with the preacher. And the journey began from there. So yeah, that's how we met.
Personally, at the time that I was meeting him, I had made a deliberate decision to start my life over in the sense of I wanted to know God. I was going for catechism classes. And surprisingly, I'm actually embarrassed to say this, I didn't know who Mr. T was. When I met Tony, I just knew him as Tony. Yeah, so when I met Tony, I didn't know that he was a pastor. I didn't know that he was an artist. I didn't know that he was a TV presenter. I didn't know that he acts, he's an actor. I didn't know so much about him. The Anthony that I met was a man who was passionate about Jesus, and I think most of our conversations rotated about, the Bible. And for me at that moment, it was really interesting because I was going through catechism classes. I'd made a turnaround in my life. I decided that, I'm over and done with living in the world. Let me follow this God. Let me see what God has in store for me, because I was also from a heartbreak. I was really hurting. I had to go through forgiving and just moving on with my life. So at the point that I met him, I was like, wow, this guy is different. He's a guy who goes to church, and not because he has to go to church, but because he loves God. And he's very knowledgeable in the Word of God. So for me, that really stood out. That really stood out. That was like a wow factor. So even one time when he invited me for the fellowship, I went. I was a bit hesitant, yes. Now, when I went, I was like, wow, the first thing I saw were young people passionate for Jesus, young people who love reading the Word of God, young people who actually pray, and it challenged me. Because in my previous encounter and environment, I was not used to seeing that. It was, you're young, you're living the life, you're out there, out in the club, you're meeting friends, that just party life. So eventually, every Thursday, because the service happens on Thursday, I would look forward to attending the services. Then, but before I went for the service, he'd actually invited me to a high school mission that he was going for. But this time, he didn't wear the coat of a pastor. It was more of like motivation, talking to the Form 3s, you know, just encouraging them and telling them, you know, we were once here, you know, and just guiding them through the right path for them to be able to complete their studies and all that. So I saw him as a motivational speaker, if I may say. But now when I went for the service, now I saw him as a pastor. And now it dawned on me that, wow, by the way, his friends actually don't refer to him as Tony. They actually call him Mr. T or Apostle.
For me, what I said was, I can't compromise God's standards so that I can accommodate anyone. And that time I think I'd reached a place and I told God, now, me, I'll do your work and you do your work. Me, I'll preach. You are the one who brought Eve to Adam. Adam never went to look for Eve. So you just bring the Eve. You know my life better. You know the number of hair on my head. You have every detail concerning my life. So I think I've dated according to stereotypes, corridor talks, philosophies of men, and all relationships have failed. So I came to a place of surrender.